Hello and welcome to my presentation. Thank you for watching and listening. Today I'm going to critically review an article written by Levine. The article was published in 2014 and the title is Principles for Code Choice in the Foreign Language Classroom, a Focus on Grammaring. As the title suggests, the author makes a case for the principled use of a learner's first language in the classroom. Levine explains that the L1 has a rightful place in foreign language classrooms in that the L1 serves many functions such as to facilitate communication, to clarify meaning, to structure and organize communication, to foster interpersonal dynamics, to reduce anxiety, and to validate learners' identity. He also believes learners should use the L1 to notice and understand grammar, and he discusses how classroom teaching should be oriented towards allowing learners to see the bigger picture. He suggests how his argument can be actualized in 4 principal ways, which I will discuss later. For now, I want to consider the strengths and weaknesses of the article. The article was insightful and interesting overall. It provided useful ideas on how to help learners become aware of aspects of language code choice, and I really liked how Levine proposes language learners as nascent bilinguals and as being legitimate members of the speech community, regardless of their level of proficiency. The focus on grammaring and L1 use was presented in a clear manner, and I was fully convinced that grammar is not something learners swallow like a pill, but rather learners use the L1 to interact with grammar. These ideas match well with my own experiences of both teaching and learning a foreign language. Grammaring is a dynamic process. I liked how Levine gave specific advice about how to integrate a formal place for the L1 in language classrooms. For example, he gave details about an activity in which students were asked to analyze and discuss aspects of non-native grammar and usage. The focus was on a famous soccer coach's speech whose grammar is less than perfect. Through the activity, the students were supposed to gain an awareness that not having perfect grammar did not mean you would not be accepted as a member of the speech community. But aside from these factors, I was left with more questions than answers. In particular, for the activity I just mentioned, I'm questioning how this would work in other contexts. Moreover, I mean a context in which the students and teachers don't share the same L1. I didn't fully understand the context from which he was basing his opinions. As I understood, he's a German lecturer in an American university, and so sharing the L1 with his students must color his perception of how he sees the issue. And how would his ideas of learner training and co-construction of multilingual norms work in the context of a native speaker in a foreign country? Also, how does awareness raising work with younger learners? I imagine not very well. And maybe he didn't intend to write about younger learners, but it's not easy to know. Makara's 2001 and Levine's 2011 studies focused on the teacher's perspective of code choice in the classroom. And although I agree with Doğan Çayaktuna's view that education on code switching and code mixing should be a part of TESOL teacher education programs as reflected in Regan and Osborne's 2002 framework, I would like to have gained a better perspective on why and how the learners choose to speak their L1. Also, from a sociocultural perspective, I'm left asking myself how cultural differences play a role and the use of the L1 in the classroom. In many of the Korean language schools I taught at, a strict English-only policy dominated the classrooms. Ultimately, the use of the L1 resulted in the right to reprimand a student, and so it was seen as a tool to manage classroom behavior. This is something that never sat well with me, as I felt students could benefit from the L1 if, as Levine suggests, a co-construction of norms were created. If a research project of this nature were to take place in a cross-cultural setting, I imagine the researcher would need to refer to an article like Shah's 2004 article on how to best conduct research in an intercultural context. As we know, there are many factors that need to be considered when interviewing teachers and students. I understand researchers and authors take different perspectives on the same issue, and like Levine mentioned, even when studied carefully, great variability in the use of L2 in the classroom can be reported. And this is somewhat of a controversial issue, so naturally there will be variability. While I fully agree with Levine's arguments, I was looking for answers to questions that were not addressed. At the same time, I understand this is just a condensed version of his book, published in 2011, and therefore the article cannot address every aspect possible. Thank you.